Hello, everybody, and a warm welcome to this Q&A. My name is Tevin Stakston, and I am the Nordic distributor for the great film I'm Your Man. I am delighted to be joined by the film's writer and director, Maria Schrader. Welcome, Maria.
Hello, Tevin. Very nice to meet you. Hello to the audience. I'm very sorry I can't be there. I haven't been in Stockholm yet. I would love to be there amongst you. And it's very rare that I've seen a projection of this film together with an audience. It just happened once at the Berlin Festival. And I'm very sorry I can't be with you tonight.
It's great that we have these technological advancements that can make us do a Q&A instead. And let me start by saying that I found the film to be both very moving and thought-provoking. And speaking of technology, has the film changed how you view both AI and personal computers in your own life after making it?
I think it has changed my perspective on the human being, because in the confrontation with someone like Tom, who is so perfect, I kind of fell in love again with the imperfection of all of us. And, you know, doing my research and speaking to people who do develop humanoid robots, you know, it might happen in the future that there are individuals like Tom, a species, who might look at us like we look at animals for the moment, you know, sweet, but, you know, very imperfect. So we should be maybe a bit tender with ourselves and understanding, and, you know, all the idiotic, instinctive sides of us, we should sometimes maybe embrace a little more.
And I think that's a very interesting starting point, because Alma's reaction and interactions with Tom in the beginning of the film is often centered around her kind of provoking him in a way. Like she wants to draw out emotions of him, either anger or confusion. It's testing him. And I was wondering, how did you develop these kind of interactions between Alma and Tom when writing the script and later on shooting the film?
Well, we thought about a romantic comedy, and the classic setup for a romantic comedy is, of course, that one of the two has no interest at all, and there is a big boundary and big obstacle. And here the obstacle is that a girl meets a boy, and the boy is not a boy and not a man. He's a machine. He doesn't live. And Alma, you know, despises the whole idea from the beginning, as you all have seen. And then it turns out that Tom is maybe an even more civilized individual than the human beings are, and not self-centered, and a very strange mixture between masculinity and naivety, and really interested in Alma's needs and to learn. So he's kind of a mixture of a man and a baby, right? So, and this is very provoking for Alma. And then it turns out that she wants to pull something out of him, which remains the human, you know, the emotion, the anger, everything what we are proud of as humans, the achievement of, you know, reason, empathy, thinking about the others. He is so much better in all of that already. So Alma tries to make him angry, and that is, of course, ridiculous and a bit pathetic also.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you said that you started with a romantic comedy in mind, which the film is at times very, very funny, but it almost always remains grounded in the reality that you have created for the film. It never breaks this. And I was wondering, was this ever a difficult process to balance the two aspects? Like you have the comedy on one hand, while also trying to create interesting thoughts for an audience.
Yes, I think the writing process of this script was was very interesting and very enjoyable. And as you might have read, it's inspired by a short story. And the short story goes a very different way and in a tradition of, AI stories or, the creation of men. And it leads to destruction and death. And so my co-writer Jan Schambok and I, we were interested in, maybe it's not this typical tale. Maybe we don't have to fear the machine. Maybe this machine wants to learn about humanity and wants to serve. This is his purpose, right? Thomas created the reason for his existence is to make an individual, a human being, happier. So he's very much in peace with being a servant of this idea. And so it started out, we are all used to already, AI and robots doing, our gardens and organizing the traffic and the streets and the air. We are surrounded by, machines and intelligent machines. So why not a machine who we can love ultimately? And how would it start with having a blind date with a machine, and what kind of compliments an algorithm would, create for you, Tevin, specifically for me, Maria. Maybe it's something different than for Alma. So that is, of course, funny. And but at the end of the day, it's not only funny, it's also a lot about loneliness and human loneliness. And even Tom, as an artificial individual, during the writing process, we started to feel for him in his loneliness of trying so hard. And so I think it's it's a genre mix. It's not really a romantic comedy. There's something very melancholic about it. And I was very surprised and also very happy when I first showed the movie that people were touched by it also. And a friend of mine started crying, and very different reactions to it. And in fact, it makes me happy. Last sentence, I'm sorry, I don't want to stretch you all, you have seen it, but it's always something I also seek for when I go to the movies, to be confronted with something which is maybe new to me. And in this particular case, we knew while starting writing the script that the encounter of these two people might ask questions of our future we are not prepared to answer yet. Are we able to love an individual who doesn't breathe, who doesn't die, and still is very tender and very understanding? I don't have an answer for that, but it's very interesting, but also frightening.
Yeah, no, I mean, the way the film works so great is that you have an outsider like Tom who looks at humans, and therefore you can see how we interact and maybe how strange we are as well, in the way we might think Tom is strange. But without the actors, you have no chemistry between both the character Alma and Tom. So I was wondering, what was the casting process like in finding the two main roles for the film?
So Maren Eggert, who plays Alma, is a Berlin-based actress. And I am too. So I'm also an actress, and we played at the same theater. And Germany, or Berlin, maybe it's the same in Stockholm, that if you work for some decades in this industry, you know your colleagues, and and so I was very aware of Maren Eggert, and still I asked her to come to a casting with other wonderful actresses, and I very much fell in love with her very human approach to the scenes. She would be an actress who just throws herself into a situation and let things happen. And I think she's just wonderful in her naturalism, in her enormous beauty also as a human being, in her vulnerability. So I was very happy to convince her to play Alma. It wasn't that hard. She liked the script. And then with Dan Stevens, during this writing process, we already thought it might be very interesting to not have a German-speaking actor playing Tom, because there is some strange, some foreign element if he speaks very good German, and if as Tom even a better German, and it's very demanding, the lines he's speaking. And it would be nice if there is some kind of a flavor which gives him a foreign aspect to accept that Dan Stevens is not Dan Stevens, but a robot. And then I also wanted, of course, a very beautiful man, almost like I always dreamt of Ken from Barbie, someone very good looking, like an old school gentleman. We always talked about Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart. And Dan, on the other hand side, he is very, he's very precise. And I saw this also in his other work. And he developed great fun of, making the machine visible, and his gestures, when he puts his hair back. And yeah, he's a very, very precise actor, and he gains a lot of fun out of doing this. And so, yes, we met during COVID in a Zoom like we do, and we talked about the script, and he liked it very much, and we liked each other, and then we decided to do that.
Oh, without those two working together, the film would not function in the same way that it does. It all relies on their chemistry. So great work in finding these two, and also the work during the filming later on from you in finding them.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And quickly going back to the character of Tom, and we briefly touched upon it, but robots and androids have been present throughout cinematic history in various shapes and sizes. And could you tell us a bit more about what was something that you did not want Tom to be, if you get what I mean? Like, you have a classic stereotypical robot that moves like this, and then I think maybe Tom is something else. So something that it could be very specific.
Yes. As I said before, it was an interesting idea to have a very peaceful and very civilized robot man, because the danger and the strangeness about him, the unpredictability, is within all of us, because Alma, as me, as you, Tevin, we all have seen, the films, we all have read the books, about the unpredictable machine trying to free itself from slavery, trying to fight back against the creator, against man. So of course, Alma can also not treat Tom like a human, like she treats her ex-boyfriend or, other humans. All of a sudden, this creature is in her apartment, and she locks the door, because we all have seen, how frightening it can be to be confronted with a machine in a human body, or, So I think that also feeds very much the love story, because there is nothing granted about Tom. And Alma, of course, as much as she does not want to engage with him, as alert, she observes him. She is like, she's very highly awake and observes everything he does. And I think this is the best soil for love and falling in love. Yes.
Interesting to hear. I think that's also what makes Tom unique, is his quietness and his gentleman appearance. He's not what you think he is, in multiple ways, I should say. And we touched upon future. Finally, any exciting projects that are coming up for you that you can talk about? Because we're all excited to hear what the next thing might be.
Yes, I can talk about a project I just finished shooting. Just last week, I finished an American feature film, and it's about the two journalists from the New York Times who published the first article about Harvey Weinstein and his wrongdoings in October 2017. This is what I did for Universal Pictures, and I will go into editing on Monday. So it will be released in November 2022.
Great to hear. And again, thank you so much for taking your time doing this Q&A with me and for the audience as well, even though they're not here with us in the room, but they will be there to see us at least.
Well, thank you very much, Tevin, for these interesting questions, and thank you all in the audience for staying and even after watching the film, still listening to me. And I hope you enjoyed it and have a wonderful rest of the evening.